My name is Gustav and I'm a full-time adventure traveler, and I'm currently traveling from the United States to Argentina on my V-Strom 650. Before the trip, I need to do some modifications to the V-Strom 650. It is, according to me, the best bike out there for international travel, but there's one downfall. The suspension is not good. So in this video, I'm going to go through the modifications I did to my V-Strom 650 before the trip. And please consider subscribing, as it helps me to bring you more content in the future. The V-Strom 650 is sold everywhere. It has to fit the small 50 kilo riders all the way up to people like me, a bit over 2 meters and 145 kilos with gear. And then you have to add luggage to that. It's understandable that the suspension is not perfectly set up for everyone. Does not say the stock suspension is bad. It is comfortable on long rides, even on gravel. But with the increased stress of a heavy rider, varied road surfaces on long rides, the suspension is not fit for the job. I enlisted the help of Ted Porter's BeemerShop to help me choose the right components that fit my V-Strom 650. Sadly, I don't have the bike here with me, as the bike is in storage in Costa Rica due to current world events. Let's start with the front suspension. The front of the V-Strom 650 is not that bad to start with. In how the V-Strom is designed, the front doesn't take that much extra weight under normal riding despite a heavily loaded bike. The rear suspension does most of the work. The front still needs an upgrade to not bottom out on bumps with a fully loaded bike though. In the front, I upgraded to Wilbur's front fork springs for the 2012 and up V-Strom 650. It's a progressive spring that is just slightly harder than the original initially, but the max resistance, since it's a progressive spring, is a lot harder. The spring paired up with a thicker than stock oil, which is a 7 weight. To prevent bottom outs, I decreased the air gap in the front forks from the stock recommended 150mm to 135mm. This just by adding a little bit more fluid. I also put in a 23mm preload. I wish the V-Strom 650 came with a front preload adjustment from stock, but sadly don't. Installing it all seemed daunting at first, but I could do it with the basic tools that I later brought on the trip. Remember that I did not live in the US where I prepared the bike. I had no access to a well-equipped garage. In the front, I started with a 55 to 60mm sag with the OEM setup. After, I had 40mm, a good improvement that increased ground clearance a little bit. Not night and day difference in handling, but it is a little bit better than stock. In the rear, I ended up with a TFX141 shock with a spring specifically selected for my weight, including luggage. I went with the manual preload for the price. Now afterwards, I wish I went with the hydraulic preload, as the ABS unit of the V-Strom 650 is in the way for the manual adjuster. I'm currently looking at getting a hydraulic preload installed. I'm pretty sure I can get it installed without buying a new shock. The rear shock made a huge difference on the handling. It's barely rideable without luggage though, it's too stiff, hence I should have opted for the hydraulic preload adjustment. But with luggage, it handles perfectly. It feels more planted, and I trust that the engineers at TFX has done a great job with the durable shock. With a new rear shock and remote reservoir, I could go full speed for hours and hours on bad roads. I never had any shock fade. Another benefit was that the droop increased by 50mm in the rear, so that's 50mm of extra suspension travel and ground clearance. All in all, the setup works flawlessly, even with the passenger. The only regret I have overall is to not get the hydraulic preload adjustment for the rear.